So hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Behind White Coats. I am Anita Kotka.
And I'm Prashna Subedi, currently a fourth year medical student.
My gosh, this is getting harder. I cry. Oh, we're not where we want to be, or we have to get this, we have to do that. Sorry,
Okay.
Queen. There were many exams that I feel like I shouldn't have passed. Sign on my daughter's doctor or medical studying medicine.
The vision of spreading hope and togetherness with this podcast was initiated is only getting bigger and bigger, and we're so proud to have come this far and are forever grateful for your support.
Today, we have designed our episode in a different way because it's basically the hosts who are recording. But today, we have with us our whole podcast, the people who work behind the scenes to make everything happen. And we are also introducing the concept of live audience. So, anyone listening to us, if you want to come over and see our podcast being recorded, you can do that anytime. Just ping us on our Viber or even leave a comment down below on YouTube and we'll contact you.
I think this is going to be more fun, but this isn't all. We also do have a special guest with us today who is such a great example of leading by example. We'll know a lot more about her throughout this podcast, but for now, let me just tell you that she's someone who has lived by the motto of dream big, think smart, and inspire others. Dr. Patrice Baptiste, everybody. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Baptiste.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How are you? How are you doing these days?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks. I'm sure you guys know I'm always busy doing something, so it means I'm always tired as well. But because I enjoy a lot of what I do, the tiredness doesn't bother me too much. So I always try and smile because I enjoy everything that I do. So yeah, I'm doing well today. I'm really happy to be here. Like I said before we started recording, I'm really humbled that you guys look up to me and you wanted me on your podcast. So yeah, I'm interested and excited to have a discussion today.
So, Dr. Patrice, starting with formal session and ask you, it's basically that we are human beings in this world and we have different stories and maybe we play different roles for different people and in different situations of life. But there is typically one story that lets us define our entire life. So, if you had to choose one narrative or one story to define you, what would that be?
When you said it defines our entire life, that's quite strong actually. But I know what you mean, and I think if I was to choose one narrative, it's probably one that you probably know me for, which is dream of becoming a doctor. So you guys said that you had watched some of my videos, and obviously I spoke at the HLA conference, and you know that I always wanted to be a doctor, but I didn't come from a background of doctors. I didn't have the most opportunities. My school, it was publicly state funded, so it was a good school, but it wasn't, I feel, equipped enough to help me get onto that path to becoming a doctor. And of course it could always be improved. So I feel like I was definitely at a disadvantage, but because I had a particular mindset and because it was something I wanted to do and I was passionate about and I had that focus and drive, I worked really hard and I sourced out resources, sourced out opportunities, and made it a reality, really. So I hope that my story or my narrative is a testimony to the fact that actually it may be hard, but you can have a dream, and you can, like my motto says, you can have a big dream, but make sure that you have a plan and you think smart about how you're going to make this dream a reality. And like I said, always inspire other people as you go along the way. So I think if I was to choose one narrative, I think it would be the narrative or the story of wanting to become a doctor and doing everything I could within my power to make that happen.
That is wonderful to hear, Dr. Baptiste. And I think hearing this story right now, we can totally understand your motto of starting Dream Smart Tutors as well. Through that platform, I understand that you have been doing such an important job of mentoring, because I have said this in previous episode of our podcast as well, that coming into medicine was not my conscious decision. I didn't know what I was jumping into. So you going to them and telling them what it is actually like to be a doctor, telling them what you could expect from this profession and how can we make most of this. It's, I think, in itself a great deal for many more students like us. I understand that they have been benefited a lot from your mentoring and from your work. But here, what I would like to know is, have you in any way been inspired, and has it in any way affected your life to be a better person or in any way possible?
I think even just meeting people like yourself, young people, medical students who look up to me, it makes me want to be a better person. It makes me want to be a very good leader. I think we're all human, and there are many times when I look back, even when I was doing DreamSmartTutors and I was working with other people, you have some conflict, and I do feel that I could have handled many things in a much better way. But it's about growing and about maturing, and I think you have to learn from your experiences. So I feel like I'm in a very privileged position, not only as a doctor but also as a role model. I am very conscious of how I portray myself, how I act, and how I treat other people, and I always try and just be a good person. I try and be humble. I try and just be a good person, and I try and just treat people how I want to be treated. And like I said, no one is perfect. I'm human and we all make mistakes, but it's about trying to learn from those mistakes. So I think for me, I feel a great responsibility to lead by example, like you said. So not surprised, but I'm always just have this lovely feeling when you guys tell me, oh, you look up to me, because I just don't. I just do the things that I enjoy, and I try to inspire people. And when I get that feedback, it really makes me want to do more and more good. So it's like a cycle. So I just want to be a good person and just try and help people in any way that I can. It doesn't always have to be, people always think you have to give money to a good cause. It could be giving your time or just listening to someone. So I try and just make small changes or small contributions, and sometimes they make very big impact. So I hope that answers the question.
That was so wonderful to hear, Dr. Baptiste. It's basically about human emotions and connecting and understanding each other to build a better world. And while we were preparing for the podcast, we also got to know that you're very fond of poetry from a very young age.
Yes.
Few of us here are poets as well. Monica writes really good poems.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I try writing. I don't know how to.
We all try. I say I'm a poet, but I'll let everyone else be the judge of that. I'll let people call me a poet. Because like you said, you try. And you do your best, and you let the audience be the judge.
So, Dr. Patrice, what we've felt and what we think we have been reading or we have been understanding is physicians must be empathetic. But this is my personal experience that once you see so much of pain, so much of suffering when you go to the ward, you somehow become immune to that, and many things don't trouble you, and maybe you lose the essence of having emotions or having conversations, and you just look at the disease as sort of a disease. So how important could poetry be in order for medical students to express themselves, and would poetry and emotions also help us become a better? What is your view on that?
I think anything creative or anything outside of medicine will definitely help you with your own personal development, and also with becoming a doctor. Like you said, quite rightly so, when you see so many conditions of the same presentation or the same kind of similar examples, you do, I wouldn't say immune, but I would say you better control your emotions. And I think over the years, you don't become cut off, but you kind of build a wall so that you don't cry in front of the patient, So I think you have to obviously it's a fine line. You have to obviously try and put yourself in the patient's shoes, try and take a moment to just understand what they could be going through. Being a patient yourself or having family members or friends who have gone through certain things definitely enhances your ability to have sympathy, have empathy. And I think it's often important for us to remember that, or even just remember if this was a family member or a friend, would we want them to be treated in that way? And I think if you think about it in that way, then you shouldn't really ever be cut off or be immune to things. And I think just being human, I personally couldn't be immune. Now I'm, as a GP, I'm better at controlling my emotions. I mean, I think as a junior, it was quite stressful as well. So you have all that as well to, contend with. And I lost my gran in 2015, and I was taking my year out of training at that time. And I remember I saw an elderly lady, and she reminded me of my gran, and I had tears, like a tear in my eye. And I really had to, just take take a moment to just take a breather, because we are human, we have things going on in our lives, and so we have to be professional still, but it's hard. So I think doing things like poetry or being creative or just taking time outside of medicine definitely helps us connect with ourselves and in our emotions. So I think it'll always be a positive for you to do something outside of medicine. It can only add to you being a better doctor. So yeah, I think that I hope I answered. There was a few questions in there, so I hope I answered the questions. But yeah, I think poetry for me has always been an outlet. Even writing, like when I write for GP Online, which you may know about, looked at my videos, it just helps me. What's the word? I don't know. Just get back to a bit of Patrice. I'm Dr. Baptiste in work and on social media, but really I'm Patrice. And I enjoy loads of other things other than medical things. So for me, poetry, writing, exercise, it really helped me. That's it. Reconnect. That was the word I was looking for. Reconnect with Patrice, reconnect with myself. And I think you need that that's me time, that time just do things outside of your day-to-day studies, day-to-day work. And like I said, it can only add to your profession, but your mental health as well. And I think if I didn't have the outlet, I would struggle, which is why I struggled in training, because I found that I didn't have much time to do all the things that I was interested in doing, or that enabled me to have a release, an outlet. So I love running, and if I had a stressful day, I would look forward to a run. But then if you have a stressful day or you finish late, you can't go for a run. How do you release that tension? So it's hard. But I think it's finding a balance and asking for help. We're definitely going off topic here, but asking for help and support. And I think a lot of time in medicine, we are kind of taught to, going back to the emotional side of things, where we're taught, or we're in a culture where you shouldn't be emotional, you shouldn't ask for help, or you shouldn't show that you're suffering or that you're upset or something has affected you. And as doctors, it doesn't make any sense how we can do this to ourselves. We encourage people to seek help and seek support, but we don't do that for ourselves. One of the big things I really don't like in medicine, and one of the cultures, is that when you're ill, you should still come to work. There's a guilt that goes with that, I suppose. If your colleagues are going to be struggling, of course you want to come in. But I always say, there's that saying, how can the sick treat the sick? We have to look after ourselves first. That goes back with, if you have a creative outlet, try and hold on to it. And if you're struggling to hold on to it, please seek some support or speak to someone about it, and how maybe you can dedicate some time to doing that alongside your studies or your profession.
Dr. Baptiste, these were very nice words from you. I want to say something. As far as we get to know you through your videos, we have portrayed you as an enthusiastic, multi-talented, successful and happy person with a portfolio career.
Try.
I find this very inspiring. You have touched many dimensions, like guiding young generations through DreamSmartTutors, writing and publications, working as a medical examiner, and making YouTube videos to help around the world, including all others, keeping your medical practice at the center.
What was the question? How do I do that? How do I do all of that?
Yeah. How do you manage your time?
I don't sleep. Yeah, that's a very good question. I actually have a whole video on time management. I think for me, like I said, when you enjoy doing something, you make the time for it. So, in my spare time, if I've got an hour to relax, I might write an article for GP Online, or I might shoot a YouTube video. I may edit a YouTube video. I may, I don't know, go for a run or something. So I think I always try and just, or one, I have a to-do list, which it probably works against me because it makes me worry about the things I'm not doing. But I always have a to-do list. I always prioritize. I always think about what can I achieve in a particular day. So today I have a number of things I wanted to get through. Of course, the podcast was top of the list, one of the important things I had to do. But then there were a few other things I had to do, like a YouTube video. I had to sort that out. So I made a point of doing that. And then I know that there's only so much time in the day. So if there is a task that I feel will take me 30 minutes, then I'll say, okay, well, I'll do this at this day where I have that time slot. There's no point in me trying to fit in a project that's going to take me 4 hours in a time slot of 30 minutes when I know it's not possible, So I try and just be practical. I try and have a plan. Like, again, if you know me from the videos, I always plan and prepare. So writing things down definitely helps me. I'm more of a visual person. I try and write a lot of things down as well. So just, keeping on track of what I have to do and the urgency of the task. I don't always write down how urgent they are, but I have a list of all the things I have to do. And then in my head, I know, okay, okay, well, if I've got a deadline of next week for the article, I may start it, say if it's Monday, I may start it the Monday beforehand, and either I finish it or I don't. I do half of it and then I come back to it. You know, like when you're at school or medical school, you have a number of different classes in the day of different subjects or different topics, and that's kind of how I still do it. I have a few different things that I'm juggling, and because I feel like sometimes I get bored or my concentration goes, I try and just juggle it in the day. So one day I may do 3 different things or for a short time and get it done that way, and I plan far in advance as much as I can. So I think that's probably a combination of how I manage to do things. But yeah, like I said, I mean, I definitely sleep, but I'm always on the go, and I think it comes from just being a high achiever, being someone who's just highly motivated and just enjoys what they're doing. So I have that push and I do it myself. And I think people have asked me in the past, oh, with medicine, you know, if they didn't know my back, they, oh, did your parents ask you to do or tell you to do medicine? I said, if my parents told me to do medicine, I wouldn't have become a doctor. I would have given up because it wasn't in a drive. So because I am driven to do all these different things, I can keep them up. So my, not a question, but what I would say to you guys is that try and find things that you're interested and passionate about. And if you want to develop like a portfolio career or want to do multiple things, do the things that you're interested in, because if you do the things you're interested in, you will be able to do them and do them well. So you'll have multiple things doing at the same time, and people will wonder again how you're doing it. But it's because you're interested and you enjoy it. So it's not work, you know, it's not a hassle for you to have to, oh, I've got to do this now, I've got to do that, because you enjoy it. So I think that's the crux of how I'm able to juggle loads of different things.
Getting into medicine this year, I've really found it difficult, give same level of energy to all my projects I'm involved at a time. And that makes me choose one and discard others. And I think now listening to you, I can prioritize things better. I hope I can follow my passion and I can do a lot better than now I'm doing. And I think I can get back on track, follow your tips, and I can make you proud someday.
Yeah, I definitely learned from you, because when I was a medical student, I'm saying this now as a doctor who's worked part-time. As a medical student, it was hard for me. And I do feel that I worked too hard. You know, I feel there are many times I could have spent half an hour writing poetry, but I thought, oh, no, I don't have time for that. I need to do this project. I need to do this. But actually, there was time. I just didn't prioritize it. That ultimately led me to being miserable sometimes because I wasn't having that outlet. So yes, even if it's half an hour, just put that half an hour into your week or into a day, and you'll find that it will definitely benefit you and you'll be able to have longevity in your project. So yeah, definitely try that.
To add to that, Dr. Baptiste, what he said, like having a creative outlet and everything that's happening right now, this podcast and even the other projects that we're involved in, the lockdown has played a big role in that. And I'm someone who has done a lot of toxic studying, because medicine, they say like you need to study. And over 2 years, I was just a studying robot, and I used to skip pages from one book to the other, and I did not know who I was or what I was doing with my life, and that was pretty hard for me. And what we advocate many a times to medical students coming here as well is that it's a lot of hard work, and the only thing that you need to do is study, and that's going to get you out of med school and you become a doctor. So that's the narrative we are setting to each and every medical. Here in Nepal, there might be situations different in the UK. We would love to hear that. And as you said, like you've written for GP Online, and we had read one article that you said that how our trainings could be more adequate, would be more humane. And I think that definitely should. So what are your views on making our training more humane and more personalized? Like, what do you think should we do, or should we teach our medical students who are going to come to medical school as well?
I think it's difficult because the job of the medical schools is to make you a doctor, right? And that involves, rigid assessments and making sure you're safe, which is very important. I do think that maybe more medical schools could, if not factor in some time for creativity, but definitely point the students to some creative outlets or some signpost them to places. I think a lot of the time the onus is on yourself to pursue these other things, but I think the number one, the training or the medical schools could maybe look into this a bit more, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. But I think as students and as a group or study groups or groups of friends, you guys can do this amongst yourselves and check in on each other as well and hold each other accountable. Like I said, looking back, I really wish that I hadn't just devoted 6 years to just studying and slogging away. I could have done so much more, but it was the mindset. And I wish I had someone telling me, you can do it, and make sure you make some time for it. And it's going to do you the world of good if you took some time out. I mean, don't get me wrong. I had friends, I had a life, but I feel like I could have utilized it more. Like, even with publications, like if you watch my video, I didn't get published until I was an F1, first year as a doctor. And I do think because a lot of those summers I tried to not think of medicine. I think I was so traumatized by the amount of exams and stuff I had in the academic year that in the summer I would just not do anything medicine. I didn't look into internships. I didn't look into publications. I just wanted to be free, basically. But I think that's because I didn't have a good balance in the year. I think if I had a good balance in the year, I think I would have utilized my summers much more and better. So I think the onus is on ourselves, and we should hold each other accountable. But yes, the medical schools could also do a bit more to support us with being a bit more creative or just being human. Because looking back, when you apply to medical school, I'm sure it's the same globally. I'm sure all the medical students, or majority of the medical students, probably feel the same way. But looking back, when you apply to medical school, you have to prove you're well-rounded and you are head of the sports team and all of these different things, and you still are performing at the top 1% in your class. And then when you get to medical school, somehow all of that just changes. And then if you fall into the trap of not having those outside interests or maintaining those creative outlets, when you become a doctor, I'm sorry, it just continues on that slope. So it's about also doing it while you're in medical school and forming good habits now, because when you become a doctor, it's going to get worse. You'll have less time probably because you'll be on a rota, on calls. But if you develop good habits now and have a good group of people who can hold you accountable, even if they're not there physically, that is not just your friends, but your family, close people, close relatives, then I feel like you will have a good foundation to do very well and to not burn out and to not have mental health problems. But it's about having to learn these habits and putting them into place now versus when you've already burnt out and you have depression and anxiety.
This is such important advice to all of us, and thank you for saying this. I understand how important self-care can be. As you said, the vent that we need, the creative outlet, this can be very important for fostering ourselves being a good human rather than just a mechanical doctor. So thank you so much. What I would like to say here is you're living a dream, you're living a life that you had dreamt at the age of 4, right? I know this has been a long journey. There have been support from your surrounding, your people around you who loves you, your family. Your own hard work has been paid off. But I also understand that there might have been many setbacks, many hardships or downfalls. How did you tackle them? Would you like to share some of those tips with us, and also what keeps you moving despite them all?
You know about my main dip when I wasn't sure if I was going to carry on, being a doctor. I think that was probably, looking back, one of the lowest points in my professional career, not even talking about my personal life, but my professional career, because I wanted to become a doctor since I was a child, and then to go through all those years of training, sacrificing, like you heard, I'd study, and then become a doctor. Oh yeah, happy days. And then to wonder, have I made the right decision? And then I think a lot of people have shame because they feel that, I shouldn't be talking this way. Being a doctor is a very privileged position. I've worked so hard. How could I not be happy? A lot of people will feel embarrassed by admitting that they're not happy, even to themselves, their family members who look up to them. My parents, they knew my story. They were very proud of me. Oh, my daughter's a doctor. My daughter's a doctor. Whoever they can tell, I'm sure your parents are the same. My son or my daughter's a doctor or medical, studying medicine. They're very proud. And then, you say to them, oh, I'm not enjoying it, or I'm not happy. How, as a parent, how they must feel. How can they tackle this? How can they support you? And I can only imagine how my parents felt when I was saying to them, I was not sure if I want to be a doctor anymore. So for me, even to admit that there was something wrong was a very low point, because I had to admit it to myself first that I didn't enjoy it. And I really tried, when it was hard, I thought, well, this is just how it is, maybe it's me, I should be working harder, or there's something I'm missing, or I was always trying to find a reason. But it was obvious to me, it was the system that was the issue. And I think once I realized that it wasn't necessarily me, and I didn't lack the passion, it was just where I was and the system I was in, then it became much easier for me to navigate and to decide what I wanted to do going forward. So I think that was probably my lowest point. And how I navigated it was, yes, doing some soul searching, just taking some time for me as Patrice, not Dr. Baptiste, and just self-care, and then just speaking to people and speaking to other doctors who are going through the same thing, because I felt like in the hospital there are many doctors who are happy, or many doctors who don't talk about it. They're not happy but they hide it, or they're not happy and they don't hide it but they just get on with it. And so who do you speak to? So I stepped away from that environment, and I spoke to other doctors who were feeling like I was feeling. I went to events that were not medical events just to experience life, because my trajectory has been a very linear one. I've gone from school to medical school to working as a doctor. So I felt like I didn't really have that life experience. So I wanted to take some time to experience life a little bit. And so yes, I think that's how I kind of got through that low point in my life, by looking back about who I was and looking after myself, speaking to people, knowing that I wasn't alone and that I wasn't a freak, that it wasn't something, I was an odd person for feeling this way. And then just realizing that it was the structural problems, the hierarchies, the way the system was composed, that made me feel that way, and it wasn't necessarily a problem with myself. And then once I had done all of that, it was much easier for me to realize that I wanted to still be a doctor, and it was just how could I still make a difference and still use my medical training to help others. And so I chose general practice, as you know. So I think that's how I kind of manage through. And pray, I don't talk about God a lot, but I have to be very careful how I use the term religious, because I say religious, but it's like a spectrum, isn't it, really? But I'm Catholic and I do believe in God. And, I can't attribute any of my successes to just me being a superwoman, because I'm not. I do believe that God has directed my paths. I believe that a lot of my success, or all of my successes, have come from God. When I look back at my exams, there were many exams that I feel like I shouldn't have passed, because I feel like I was rubbish at some of the questions, but I passed, so I hold that to a divine power, honestly. And people might think I'm mad for saying these things, but unless you go through it, it's hard to explain. So for me, there were things that have happened in my life that only I feel God could do and has done. So I can't just sit here and say to you, oh, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing so well because I'm just an amazing person, because, I'm not. I'm anything that I've done and anything that you see me be successful in, I attribute to God. So I make sure I pray, and I prayed and I went to church. I went more often to church, and I think spending more time with God helped me again just remember why I chose medicine and that I still had good to do, and praying.
Well, you're saying sometimes you feel like you're passing an exam that you may not have to. I'm feeling like you're telling my story because I've felt it so many times. But
honestly, because there's exams, and I'm sorry to cut you, but there's exams, and I was like, I'm sure I failed that exam, and I'm like, please, God, please, just help me pass this exam. I'll do better the next time. Just help me pass, And I every time. And you guys, if you watch my videos, the only time I failed was my GP exam, and that's a whole nother discussion. Because I feel like God was teaching me a lesson in that failure, and I needed to fail that exam. So I talk about the non-spiritual things as to why I failed, but there's a whole conversation I could talk about with the spiritual reason as to why I failed that exam. So yeah. Sorry to cut you. I'm terrible at cutting people off.
So as someone, I was educated in a convent school with a lot of those Catholic values as well. So I understand the importance of prayer, and every word that you're saying, I think it resonates with surrendering yourself to higher power and overall mental health, and that you're not alone. But it becomes kind of difficult, and you've said a lot of things, but what concrete advice would you give to us millennials, because we are focused on CVs and so many credentials and what we can achieve, what we get to show, and it's a bit of achievement, and you define yourself with achievement. So as a medical student, or as a team of medical students, or as a class of medical school, how can we support each other and not be competitive? But I don't know, like what advice would you give? to medical students like us?
Competition, some level of competition is very good. You need it to do better in yourself as well. And also competition with other people, but also competition with yourself and always striving to be better. One of the main things I would say is just focus on you, focus on your development in, like we said, the spiritual side, if you're spiritual or religious, the mental health side, the academic side, and try not to worry too much about what everyone else is doing. It's easier said than done. Look, I know. Okay, but it's about trying to make a conscious effort of that and just trying to work at it every day. Like even me, I've said many times in my videos, I'm not the most positive of people. I work really hard to stay positive. Sometimes the day is going rubbish and I have to try. I struggle to find something positive. So trying to have develop the habits, the good habits now, and the foundations now, because life is going to be full of ups and downs. There's always going to be something bad around or negative or not so good around the corner. Then there's always going to be a happy day around the corner. And I think it's about trying to train yourself and develop a very good, positive, strong mindset. So focus on yourself and try not to worry too much, because again, I've said it in many interviews, I'm naturally a worrier. I think many medical students are probably warriors, whether they admit it or not, or they're aware of it. We worry, like you said, different things about publications, jobs. Are we going to pass an exam? If we fail, what's going to happen? But honestly, there were many things I've worried about which I can't even remember what I was worrying about. At the time it was very important, I suppose, as a worry. Looking back, I could have spent a lot of time just being happy. And I would say you guys are in a very privileged position. There are many young people or people who want to get into medical school. You are in a perfect position. And remember and count your blessing. A lot of the time we get caught up with, oh, we're not where we want to be, or we have to get this, we have to do that. But just take a moment, and I would say take a moment, or challenge you every day, take a moment to count your blessings, your family, your friends, your health, you're in medical school, what you've done beforehand, all the things you can think of. Even write it down and force yourself to look at it and remind yourself, I'm in a very good position. I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed. I'm very privileged. Because often we are in the future. Oh, I need to get here at this time. I need to do this. I need to be the best. But we forget to be in the present, or we're in the past. Oh, we failed this exam, or we didn't do well at this, or we fell out with this person. You can't live in the past. You can't live in the future. You have to live in the present. And I have to also consciously remind myself to be in the present. If I find my mind is wandering, which is like mindfulness, I suppose, I try and bring myself back, be in the present. There is something called the worry tree, which is something they use, I think, in like CBT or counseling for anxiety and worry. And it's about, if you have a worry, is there anything you can do about it at that time, in that particular moment? Because if you can't, then try and let the worry go. If you can, try and put a plan in place of how you're going to tackle that particular worry. And hopefully that should reduce your anxiety or reduce your worry. Sometimes people use worry times, where you have a moment where you dedicate some time to worrying. I don't know, I haven't tried that, but some people might try it and it might work for them. But yeah, I think that one of the things I would say, if you are a worrier like myself, try and acknowledge that yes, you're worrying, and acknowledge, is it a real worry? Is it something that you need to put a plan in place for? And if it's not a real worry, or something you're just anticipating could happen but may not happen, then try and let it go, because life is too short. We know in the pandemic, look, a lot of people have lost their lives. You may have lost someone close to you, or a friend, or know someone who has. And so, and even as a medical student, how you see death, you've seen what can happen to the human body. You see that you could be 40 and have an autoimmune condition and your life could be turned upside down. So if you know all of these things, try and consciously remind yourself, and then say, well, actually, I'm going to use that to try and become a better person, or to be a happier person. I think we have, inner peace comes, peace comes from ourselves, and you have to try and find this peace somehow, and find a way of maintaining that peace. Because like I said, life is a roller coaster, and you could be searching for peace and searching for things, and you may never find it. It's about looking within yourself and trying to find it within yourself. So I think those are probably my biggest tips from my own personal experience as well, and from what I've seen from other people. So yeah, please, my biggest one is try not to worry so much. Things will fall into place in the end. They will, trust me, they will. So learn from me, don't worry so much.
They're so insightful words. Thank you for this. Now I want to ask you a question. In your view, what is the most important quality that every doctor or medical personnel must have? If you have to choose one, what is that quality?
That's a very difficult question because there are so many, and I'm not sure I could pick one, to be honest. We've already spoken about empathy and sympathy, patience, listening. I think I really can't pick one, but I will talk a little bit about listening. I think even as a leader, I think you should listen to other people. But sometimes we have a conversation and we don't know we're doing it sometimes, but we're not actually listening. We are thinking about how we can respond or how we can get our point across or how we can get our agenda across. And I think sometimes you have to just stop thinking about yourself and just try and listen, actually listen to what that person is saying. Many times patients have said to me they've had certain symptoms and it doesn't really make sense. Sometimes it just doesn't fit that textbook condition, but the patient knows themselves. And many times patients have said to me, I know my body, I know this isn't right for me. And you have to stop and listen, and because if you don't, you could be missing something and overlooking something. And so I feel like it's really important to, not just with patients but with your own colleagues or family, to just listen and just listen to what they're saying and try and actively respond, not just respond, or not answer the question as to what you think they're saying, if that makes sense. Try and really understand and grasp what they're trying to convey or get across to you, rather than what you think they're trying to say, or anticipating it and trying to get a response over based on your own assumptions. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm talking rubbish, but I would say I think listening is so important. Like truly listening.
Yes, we do tend to come from our own predefined tendencies and paradigms that we already have, and trying to accept what someone is saying takes a lot of security, to break the wall and let that come through you. Oh, okay, so yeah, I guess that's what you're trying to say.
Yes,
And
exactly. I'm glad you understood. I hope people understood.
okay. Dr. Patrice, we as medical students from a developing country like Nepal, we kind of feel we are left behind from the international platform, like especially in terms of critical thinking, being exposed to research from early on med school, quality improvement projects, audits, and presenting in international conferences. It's like a usual thing in other like let's say countries like UK, but for us that's like we only get to hear about it on YouTube and it's not really incorporated in our curriculum. What advice would you like to give to us in order to become an internationally competent doctors in the future?
I think you've mentioned some of it already, actually. Just staying in the loop, speaking to people like myself, doctors. You can contact doctors. I'm sure many of them would be interested in giving you some advice, like I try and do for my videos or through just my contact with many of you via social media. I think the advantage that you guys have of your generation compared to people in your country many years before you was the internet and the social media. Even in my generation, when I was applying to medical school, I didn't have access to social media on the level it is now compared to some people who are in medical school at this current time. So use the internet, use social media to advantage, try and contact people and just stay in the loop like you're doing. There's always going to be projects, always going to be things out there. It's just about sourcing that. And unfortunately, your medical school isn't able to guide you, which is not unique to, maybe it's exaggerated where you are, but it's not unique to just your situation or your medical school. There are many medical schools who don't actively provide some of the practical things or some of the things you need to build your portfolio. Many medical students from the UK have asked me for advice about how to build a portfolio, how to boost their CV. I did a video on how to boost your CV because people asked me, what do I do? I'm lost. I'm not taught any of this at medical school. So take some comfort that you're not alone. But like I said, it may be a bit more exaggerated in Nepal, but you've got an advantage in the sense that you have access to the internet, social media, and you can contact people in the UK, contact people in the US. And I'm sure if you keep persevering, you'll find people who could be your mentor or people who could just give you advice. And YouTube is a wonderful resource. Like, I feel like I should have used YouTube to, again, do what you're doing, to maybe look out for people and find useful resources. I feel like I should have used it more when I was a student, because there are so many things on YouTube that can really help you. So keep an eye out and just stay in the loop, and I'm sure you will be fine. But like I've said in my videos, try and get a publication. It doesn't have to be very big, Even I have, you must have heard of PubMed, and I have an article in PubMed. I didn't even know it was an article in PubMed. I wrote an opinion piece for the student BMJ in the UK here, and someone had asked me, oh, how can I get a publication, just on Twitter actually, and they said, oh, one has to be searchable in PubMed, and then I did a quick search in PubMed for my name, and it came up with a very short opinion piece or some tips for medical students or something like that. I didn't even know. And I said, well, here, have a look at that link. You can write something similar or something, an opinion piece, and kind of, it could be searchable in that way. So people often think about massive projects. If you have no previous publishing experience and no mentor or no guidance, try and start something very basic. And that would even be in publications that you could find in Nepal, I'm sure. Because one of my first publications was very short piece about taking a year out of training. And I got paid for it as well. It was from the BMA News. They had another additional publication. And it was very short, and it's a publication. And it's something I can add to my CV. And I got paid for it, which is great as well. So try and aim high, of course, but you have to build your experience as well. So whether that's with a QUIP, a quality improvement project, an audit, an opinion piece. Many of my opinion pieces, if you're connected with me on LinkedIn or you watch my video, you will see a lot of my opinion pieces are based on something I've read, whether that's a survey or something I've come across, and then I've just put my spin on it, my own unique take on it, and I've submitted it to BMJ or submitted it somewhere, and they've accepted it. To be honest, it was good, but I look back, I think it could have been better, but they accepted it, so it must have been a good quality that, they've accepted it. But maybe that goes back to being a perfectionist or the type of personality that we have, isn't it? Where we think, oh God, I'm hoping it's going to be accepted. I think it could be better, but I'm going to see. And then they accept it, and you're like, oh wow, that must be good then. But you have to have someone accept your publication for you to believe that it's really good, isn't it? So I would say try and start small, right? And stay in the loop, speak to each other, and please, bounce off of each other, share things with each other. I also feel when I went to UCL, even before when I was at school, there were maybe 5 people who applied to medicine, and I feel like there were a few people who were very secretive. They didn't want to share resources, they didn't want to share information. I'm sure you're smiling because you know, in medical school, people are very secretive. They don't want to share. We all want to be doctors. We all want to achieve the same goal. So if you can find a handful of people who are willing to help you and you're willing to help them, please hold on to those people and share. Bring each other up. And I really wish that I had a few good people who helped me, but I wish that it wasn't so secretive and so competitive as it was. So please, try and support each other. And if you come across something on the internet or a competition, you can all submit for it, or you can work together and submit together. You can all be co-authors, many things. So that would be my advice about, trying to build your CV, build your credibility, build your portfolio. It can be done.
That was such a great advice, Dr. Baptiste. We should definitely work on that. We should build more connections and explore opportunities in the area that interests us. And of course, we should help each other out as we go on. And we should start somewhere, even if it is small. One day we will reach where we want. Incredible advice. So to spice things up a little bit, we have a very fun game of rapid fire lined up.
No, I'm not good at this. Someone did this with me before and I was terrible. So I'll try my best. I presume we're coming to the end, so you want to do quick. I'll try. If you know about me, I speak a lot, so I'll try and give a short answer.
Sure, it's okay. So shall we start?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. Books or movies?
Books.
All right. Night owl or early bird?
Early bird.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Queen or the Beatles?
Oh God. Can I pass?
You could choose one.
Oh God. I will say the Beatles. I'm sorry. Sorry, Queen. Sorry to Our Majesty. Physicians
or surgeons?
Oh, physicians.
What is happiness for you?
In one word, is meant. Happiness for me, it's just being at peace and being with my family, and just having family time, having me time, and no worries, just being in the moment.
Me time is very important indeed. Life in one word.
Life,
Yes,
a journey.
that's incredible. Your journey in a sentence.
My gosh, this is getting harder. My journey is not over yet, you see. So the start of my journey is working hard to become a doctor, enjoying life as a doctor, and seeing what the future holds.
What do you do when you are sad?
I cry. I cry. I admit I cry. When I'm sad, I do cry. I'll be honest. I do cry. I think I cry too much. Actually, is that bad? Is that bad admission?
It's really not. It eases your heart when you cry out.
I think I'm an emotional person. I'm a very emotional. People say to use the word empath. I think I feel like I pick up on emotions very easily, and maybe that's why I cry a lot. When I'm sad, I try and take some time to myself, and I try and understand why exactly what's made me sad and how I can rectify or how I can overcome it. I'm a very practical or logical person. I try and think of solutions to things. So I'd be working about how can I get a solution to this thing that's made me sad.
Okay. That's really good, and you did really well in the
Oh,
rapid
done.
fire
Okay,
round.
great.
It's a wrap for this. Over to the host.
It was so fun, Dr. Baptist. Actually, we all enjoyed.
Oh, that's
And
really
that's
good to
really
hear.
good. Yeah, as you had predicted a bit earlier, we are almost at the end of this session. At the end, although you have already covered so many things, I'd like to ask on behalf of all the medical students, what advice would you like to give and any final words that you'd like to say to all of us?
Just be happy, please. Try and be happy, And being happy doesn't mean you have to be rich. It doesn't mean you have to have a massive mansion and a massive car, Porsche or Audi or whatever the favorite car it is. I don't know at the time. Just being happy, like I said, when you ask me the questions, the rapid fire, being happy is when I'm with my family, because I know, like with my parents, they're not old, but they're not young, and they're getting older, and so I try and cherish the time, even when I was younger. And a lot of young people don't want to spend time with their family, their parents. They think, oh, they're boring. I love spending time with my parents and my family because, like I said, I know they're not going to be here forever. And if doing medicine and seeing what I've seen, and you guys probably can resonate, that you don't even have to be a medic. You don't even have to be a medical student. You know how precious life is. And I think for me, I'm very keen to spend the most of as much time as I can with the people that mean the most to me. So for me, yes, just try and be happy and spend as much time as you can with your loved ones and focusing on what is important to you. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a massive house and a massive car. We all want to be comfortable. We all want to have those creature comforts, and that's fine, but try and find out what's important to you and try and incorporate it, make the most of what is important to you. And like I said, for me, that's spending time with my family. So yeah, I guess that'll be my final word. Oh, my last thing, actually, no, that's not my final words. I'm doing a giveaway, and I've only done one giveaway on my channel, and the only giveaway I did was for UK medical students or UK subscribers. But I'm conscious that I have subscribers and people who watch my videos and who are not in the UK. So I'm looking to see if there's anything I can give away to people who are not, solely based in the UK. So it wouldn't be obviously something physical that I could ship over to you guys, but I don't know if it's a subscription or something that you guys use as a resource, or please just send me a few suggestions within reason. And that's my final word.
I think whatever this pandemic did, it connected people and it brought the worlds together because we were having the same experiences. And many a times our day in our lives are so different based on the geographical area that we stay, but the whole world came together to have one single experience. And the pandemic made us meet you. It was like you were resonating our words, and we would love to meet you. Like, unfortunately, time passes and memories remain, and that's what happens all the time with life. But will we see you anywhere around in the town of Kathmandu here in Nepal? Would it be anytime soon? But we'd love to meet you.
I would love to meet you guys. I was even thinking as you before you said that. I'd love to meet you guys. Like, I'd love to physically, definitely one day, when all this is over, I'd love to come and, see you guys in person, see where you live. Well, maybe not where you're living, but where your medical school is, whatever you want to show me. I'd love to come and visit. And yeah, just that would be great. But I think maybe going forward, because of the situation, definitely I'd be open to just checking in with you guys and supporting you guys in any way that I can.
That was so wonderful, Dr. Patrice, and we would love to have you as our mentor, to talk to you more and see you here in Nepal and meet you physically. Hope that day comes soon.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, it was lovely speaking to all of you and finally meeting you guys. And you guys are honestly, you are doing amazing. I don't know if many people tell you that often, but you are doing fantastically. Okay, you're doing wonderfully well wherever you are on your path, and you're going to go on to do amazing things. So, if people don't tell you that often, I'm going to tell you you're doing just fine. So just enjoy where you are. Okay, all right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Listen out to our link in the description. So please go and check her channel. I think we're almost at the end. Pratna, would you like to say something?
Nothing much, but maybe we should take a photo, like with all the smiling faces, and we can end this beautifully.
Okay.
Thank you all. See you again in the next episode. Bye bye. We can say a big bye to everyone.
Maybe.
Bye. See you.